Hey there, and welcome to episode 73 of Your Fun and Profitable Online Business. This is the podcast that helps you build a business that feels as good as it looks. I'm Wendy Muzzy, and I help women entrepreneurs create fun and profitable businesses using simple systems, intentional action, and a whole lot less pressure. Today, we're talking about something that feels incredibly productive, but often creates the exact opposite result. It's having too many active projects. Now, before you immediately get defensive and think you don't have too much going on, let me ask you a few questions. Are you currently working on a new idea, or thinking of a new offer, or updating your website, trying to post more consistently, improving a system, taking a course, testing a new idea, revisiting something you started 6 months ago? Now, if you said yes to more than one, this episode's for you. Because I think one of the biggest reasons we feel like progress is slower than it should be isn't because we're lazy or unmotivated. And it definitely isn't because we need to know more. It's because our attention is spread across too many active projects at the same time. And when our attention gets fragmented, things slow way down. All right, let's get to it. I think one of the coolest things about working with entrepreneurs is that we're naturally wired to see possibilities. It's like one of our superpowers. We're constantly spotting opportunities, ways to improve things, new offers, new ideas, new ways to serve people, new ways to grow. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The ideas are not the problem. The problem is we often promote ideas into active projects way too quickly. Sometimes the second we think about it, it becomes our top priority. And it's just another thing demanding our attention. And suddenly, we're trying to move 10 things forward at once. The truth is, every active project comes with invisible cost. It requires our focus, decisions to be made, tracking and follow-up. And all of this takes up our precious mental space and energy. And the more active projects you have, the heavier it all is. Most entrepreneurs I talk with don't realize they're carrying all of this weight simultaneously. They just notice that their progress feels maybe a little slower. But there's a multiplication effect happening. One project is simple, well, at least simple enough. But 5 projects are not 5 times harder. They're often way more than that, because every project requires context. Every project requires remembering where you left off or re-engaging with the details. And that's where the hidden costs start to show up. Imagine you have a content series you're working through, and a new workshop you're planning, and multiple courses you're taking. Now, none of these are unreasonable. The problem is switching between them throughout the day, because every time you return to a project, your brain has to remember what direction you were heading, where you left off, what happens next, or what decisions you were trying to make. And that restart process takes up your energy. And most people dramatically underestimate how much energy it consumes. Now, have you ever reached the end of the week and thought, you worked really hard, but nothing feels finished? You're not sitting around doing nothing. You're working, you're showing up, you're trying. But you're taking tiny bits of progress across a dozen different things instead of meaningful progress on 1 or 2 things. I like to tell people it's like they're trying to dig 10 wells at the same time. They're moving dirt. They're putting in effort. But because they're constantly changing locations, none of the wells are getting very deep. Meanwhile, the entrepreneur who's digging one well keeps getting closer and closer to water. Notice the issue here isn't effort. The issue is focus. Now, here's the part that I don't hear discussed very often. Too many active projects don't just slow your progress. They create a lot of emotional weight. Because every unfinished project becomes another thing you're carrying. Every project creates expectations and obligations. Every project becomes another thing that's whispering, don't forget about me over here. And eventually, those whispers become pretty loud. You start feeling behind, or worse yet, you feel really guilty. Maybe even feel scattered. not because you're failing, but because your attention is being pulled in too many different directions. And I think many entrepreneurs mistake that feeling for overwhelm. What it really is fragmentation. Your energy isn't necessarily gone, it's just spread way too thin. Now, one of the biggest mindset shifts I've had to have is realizing that every good idea doesn't need to become an active project right now. Some ideas can simply be parked. They're saved, they're stored, and they're going to be revisited later. And that's sequencing. And that's how things get finished. Let's compare this to an airport again for a second. Not every plane takes off at the same time. Some are over there in the hangar and they're secured. Some are at the gate being boarded. Some are in flight. And some are landing. And that order matters because trying to launch every plane at once would be utter chaos. It would create a gridlock. Your business works the same way. You can absolutely have 20 good ideas, but you probably shouldn't have 20 active projects. Those are two very different things. Now, I know this sounds counterintuitive because so many entrepreneurs think that more projects equal more progress. But the opposite is true. When you reduce the number of active projects, you can make decisions faster and maintain your momentum way longer. And this leads to you feeling less overwhelmed. Not because you're doing less overall, but because you're directing your energy towards fewer things. Your concentration here creates momentum, and momentum creates progress in your business. And that's a much more enjoyable cycle than constantly starting and stopping throughout the day. Now imagine ending your week with tangible results instead of a longer list of unfinished work. That's what happens when you stop trying to move everything forward at once and start moving select things forward. The result isn't just better productivity, it's more confidence. And really, it's a business that's way more fun because making meaningful progress feels really good. All right, let's get to your action step for this week. I want you to make a list of every active project right now in your business. Now, these aren't just ideas or someday projects. These are things that you're actively working on, the things currently demanding your deep work. Then ask yourself, if I could only actively work on 3 of these over the next month, which 3 would create the biggest impact? Circle those. Everything else gets parked for now. Not forever, just for now. Because progress slows when your intention gets fragmented. And the fewer active projects you have competing for your attention, the easier it becomes to make more meaningful progress on the things that matter most. And if you'd like some dedicated time to work on these 3 projects you circled, come join me at CEO Hour. It's a free weekly co-working session where you can carve out some focused time to move your business forward. Go sign up at wendymuzzy.com/CEO. I'll also include the link in the show notes. All right, that's it for today. Until next time, happy building your fun and profitable business.